Hey guys, so just wanted to share a couple more of my, I'm gonna make this into a short hopefully, but a couple more of my autism traits. I have this repetitive movement thing that I do, but it usually revolves my fingers or my hands, like rubbing surfaces like on my leg or my hands or my arms or shit. And I'll just do it for a few minutes at a time, like stimming or something like that, or tapping my hands for a while, just like I'm doing it right now on my thigh, but like just tapping my hands against something, or like I used to chew on plastic, like anything plastic that I would get in my hand, I would chew. Like I would religiously chew my ink pen tops all through high school, and I never could keep an ink pen top on an ink pen because I just couldn't. And then the little hard plastic. This is not going to be a short. I'm sorry, but like the hard plastic that goes on the end of the ink pen, like the little stopper that's on the top of the ink pen, not where the ink comes out, but on the other top of it. I would chew it until it would pop out, and then I would just chew on that piece. So I've always engaged in like a lot of really repetitive things that like I just do over and over and over and over again every time I get the opportunity. So I've been doing that for a long time, but I've recently taken to like fidgeting with my hands. So I really like when the fidget toys came out. I never bought one, but I was really highly interested in like the fidget spinners and the fidget spinners, but like certain fidget blocks and stuff like that I find very soothing. And I remember like when I first got into for my schizoaffective, and the doctor saw me, I was repetitively playing with my keys, my key ring when I was in the office. Like every visit I would be just playing with my key rings, and she thought that it was a symptom of my medication being too strong or something like that, and she kept trying to medicate it out of me, and it just wouldn't go away. So like I think that might be part of the autism stimming thing, of like a self-soothing type of thing that I do. So I've noticed that like it's my fingertips, like they really like having stimulus on them, like the why I'm doing this right now. Even now, like I just like having sensations on my fingertips is very self-soothing to me. So I really always play with sensations on my fingertips. So I do that a whole lot, and like just I like just moving my hands a lot. So I do that. Um, Another thing that I have is the sensory issues with like I really can't handle, it's my ears more than anything. Bright lights don't bother me too much, but it can also be like it's just a sensory input problem where if it's too many sensory things happening at once, I could be really uncomfortable. Like it's bright out here and the wind is blowing, the birds are chirping, and the temperature is a little too cool. So like it's a little bit too much sensory input and I'm a little uncomfortable. So like it's not any one thing, it's just like all of my senses are firing off at the same time, and it's a little overwhelming. Plus there's like the smell of grass in the air, and it's just a lot of smells and just a lot of shit happening right now. So it's probably why I'm like stimming a little bit right now. But that's one thing. But the biggest problem I have is with my ears. My ears have always been very, very, very sensitive to sound. And this is even when I was a little girl. Like, we would go to family gatherings, and it would be like 35 people in my grandma's house, and it's only like a 3-bedroom house. So, like, it's packed to the max, and everybody's black, so they're loud. I'm not saying all black people are loud, but like my family, like, even my voice is audible. Like, it's a little louder than it should be in real life. So like they're all like that, and so everybody's rambunctious, they're loud, they're happy, they're laughing, and everybody's talking over everybody else, and it would freak me the fuck out. And so like me and my sister, who is way like more autistic than I am, like she was flat out when she was a baby, like she had no eye response to shit. She wouldn't cry in response to stimulus, like she wouldn't look you in your eyeball, she wouldn't smile about shit. Like she was just flat out, they thought she was retarded when she was born, because she was like not responding to shit for like several months. But like me and her both would just isolate. Like hers was way worse than mine, where she would ball into a corner and like cover her ears and would go into full meltdown mode. But I would be right next to her, just sitting there, like trying to self-soothe myself just to get away from the noise was always enough for me. but we could never fully get away from it because like they wouldn't let us go upstairs and just chill. But I know every family reunion we had, we were always trying to like spend as much time upstairs as in the house as we could because there was no one upstairs. But then they would be yelling at us about being antisocial and shit like that. So like we didn't really have much of a choice. And autism was not, back in like the late 90s when we were like 7, 8 years old, it was not this well-known diagnosis. Like nobody knew really what autism was. Like I think Rain Man had come out or was about to come out. So it was a niche little thing where it was like people are starting to understand what it is, but that was just a movie. So it's not like you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that's my child, unless they were literally like Rain Man. So people weren't noticing the smaller symptoms in their own kids and shit like that. So it was going undiagnosed and unnoticed for a long time. And I remember even when we finally talked to our mom about it when we were adults, she still never put autism together. She just said that she realized, looking back, that we really did have sensory issues. And she didn't even acknowledge mine. She was talking about my twin sisters and how she would go into meltdown mode whenever we had family gatherings. And she was talking about how bad she felt about all that. But she still didn't even recognize the symptoms in me when I was a lot calmer and how I would have a meltdown. So like she still didn't get the full picture of what was going on, even when autism was way on the radar of people by the time we were in our 20s. So like that's another thing I have. Like it's when there's too many sounds going on at the same time, I will become uncomfortable. So even with music, like if there's a very badly produced song and like or bad mix of a song, like even when I'm writing my own music, if like an instrument is just a little too loud in the mix, like I won't be able to keep writing the song until I turn it down. Like sometimes I'll have to turn the volume on one particular track or instrument all the way down if I'm listening to it on loop, because it's like it'll start fucking with my comfort level if I'm having to listen to it on loop and something is just nagging in my ears. It's just too loud. And so I have a trouble even making a mix because I can't get the volumes right on the instruments. Like I know that's a common problem with producers anyway when you're a musician and your ears are fine-tuned like that anyway. But like with me, it makes me physically uncomfortable if I can't get those instrument levels the right way. So like hearing it when it's too much noise, it really freaks me out. So like that was something I struggled with at the group home a whole lot, when there were 16 of us in the house and there would be like this one staff member who was like, if you take the loudest black person or the loudest any person really you've ever heard, I reference black people because our voices are a little more robust, it's a little heavier in tone, it's a little more audible, a little more bassy, it carries a little bit further. So when we're loud, we're really loud. But any really loud person you've ever heard, the loudest person you could possibly think of, or someone walking in public blasting music on their phone in a quiet environment, just think about any loud ass occasion you can think about. Like that's what that staff member was like. So it'd be like 3 people are already talking in the house on the couch, the TV's on, other people are having conversations, someone's on sitting at the counter on a phone call, and the staff member will be in there screaming at a girl in a wheelchair, and this is her normal speaking voice. And like I remember she was yelling at somebody and I was talking to one of the staff members and I audibly flinched, and the staff member was like talking to me over the next few weeks about like how to fix my sensory issues, and she was just recommending that I walk around the house with headphones on or listening to music or something like that, because they were trying to get that staff member fired, but they were in the process of working on it because she was like hyper abusive to the patients in the house, and like people were making mad complaints about her and shit, and she eventually got fired. But in the meantime, she was like, so she's yelling at people and doing all the shit and it's making you freak out, like we got to come up with a solution so you're not so uncomfortable while you're in the house. So like I just have audible sensory issues like that. And then another thing I have, which is a combination of OCD and autism, is like this repetitious thing I do with numbers in my head. Like I think I mentioned this before, but I'll like you know how there's different fonts you can write numbers and letters in. Like it could be in cursive, it could be in Times New Roman, it could be in Gothic, it could be in Sans, like stuff like that. Like ever since I had, sorry, it's so windy out here, but like ever since I got on like Word Perfect, or I think it was called Word Perfect, or whatever the Word program was back in like the early 2000s. It's still there, but like the typing program that we would use for all our school projects and shit like that, like all the fonts that they had up there. Ever since seeing all those fonts and typing in all the different fonts, because I used to write books when I was like a teenager, I would play around with different fonts to see which way I wanted to write the book that day. And so I got used to seeing all the numbers and the letters written out in different fonts. So, like in my head, I'll take a number and write it out in as many different fonts as I can. But, like, I'll visualize my hands in my head writing a font like this and then writing the number like that. Like if I write a number 2, I'll write it like that, and then I'll write it like that, and then I'll write it like that. And I'll write it as many different font styles as I can in as many different combinations as I can. So if I do a 2 like that and then like that and then like that, I'll start the next row like that, like that, like that, and then I'll do the next row like that, like that, like that. And I'll do like as many combinations of a 2 as I can in my head. And I won't stop until I have no more combinations possibly left of those fonts. And I'll introduce as many fonts as I can of the number 2. And it's like I can't not do it until it's all done. So like I have this, I've been doing that since I was like 17. I'm 34 now, and I don't know why I do it or where it comes from. I don't know if it's another form of stimming. Like it's self-soothing to me. It's not like a uncomfortable OCD where like I can't stop doing it or something bad will happen. It's just like it'll come into my mind and I'll just stare into space and just do all these combinations in my head until I'm done with the combination. So I'm not really sure what you would call that, but I know it's repetitious behavior that could be seen in autism. So like I do that a lot, and I've always done that. Not always, but I've done that for most of my life, or half of my life at least. So I've noticed that is one thing that I do just in my head, and I've done it on paper many times too, like just write out all these numbers and all these combinations and all this shit. But like that's probably the weirdest thing that I do, because it's so pointless. Like it doesn't start from anything, it doesn't have any meaning that I know of. It's just fucking combinations of numbers. And I think it might partially be because I have dyscalculia, which is an inability to do math, because I was born at 1 pound 2 ounces at 7 months old, and the part of my brain responsible for math didn't develop properly at that, being born that early. And then being in the incubator for 6 months, like it just didn't develop in the womb the way it needed to, so it's just janky and I can't do like math. So I've never been good at it. Like I was passing like with C's or a lot of D's and shit like that, but I never did too good in math throughout my whole school career. So I think I have like a little bit of a fixation on math, and I've noticed it comes out in a lot of little ways, because I'm fascinated by it, but I can't figure it out. Like I like looking at mathematical proofs from like university and shit. Like I just like seeing the numbers and watching I like seeing the numbers and watching the equations and shit like that, but I don't know how to do any of it. So I get a little hyper fixated on numbers and just writing them out and doing combinations and shit like that. But those are some of my weirdest autistic traits that I have that I can think of. So, I was always surprised that I don't score higher than I do. And I know those online tests are not the best reference. And I know I've taken I asked ChatGPT what was like some of the more official online tests you could take and it gave me some of the best online autistic tests you could take that were like the best indication that you could actually go back to a doctor and tell them like this scored relatively high, so I would like to come in and get official testing type of deals, not just like a 5 minute fucking BuzzFeed quiz or some shit. But yeah, so I took some more officialized testing and I keep scoring mildly autistic. So it must not be as bad as like my sister's or something like that. But it is still just a generalized test, so I might score higher on an official test. I don't know. But I do know, talking to the doctor, my doctor that I see at the group home, he and I talked about some things, and he said the same thing, that it sounded like it was more mild autism. And he has autism himself, so he was like just listening to some of my symptoms that I definitely was on the spectrum, but it wasn't so disruptive to my life that it should be like an issue that I needed to actually pursue a diagnosis for. And I agree with that, because it's not disruptive to my life or anything like that. It's just more like a quirky circumstance that I have. So whatever I have, I'm still functioning highly with it. It's just some weird things, and the biggest problem that I have with it is not even the social cues and stuff that I mentioned in the video I made last night, because it's not confusing. I mean, it's confusing, but it's not in the way of me being able to bond with people or anything like that. It's just a weird one-off. My biggest problem that I personally have with it is the sensory issues. Just being overwhelmed by stimulus really makes me want to like crawl into my skin sometimes. So I still don't really know what to do with sensory overwhelm, and I haven't really learned how to decompress. I just stim a lot. Like, the sun is hurting my eyes right now. That's why I'm just started rubbing my face and shit like that, because I like stuff on my fingertips. But other than self-soothing to try to decompress, like, I haven't figured out any other ways to calm myself down, really. So yeah, that's probably the worst part of it all, is just being physically uncomfortable. But self-soothing helps a lot. Like, it's just another input stimulus, but it's a soothing stimulus. So like, it calms me down a lot. But just wanted to get up here and share that. Talk about some of the slightly weird quirks that I have that I've noticed with autism. So I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.